What's up, besties? It's your girl Morgan here, and you're listening to Your Internet Best Friend. What is up, besties? It's just me today. We're doing a solo episode, and low-key, these are actually my favorites because it is a time for me to just be totally unhinged, go on as many tangents as I want. Hopefully you guys can follow me. And today I was like, look, what is one topic that everyone wants a story time on? Everyone wants the tea on. And of course, it's reality TV, my favorite thing in the whole entire world. So I thought, why not? Why not dig into my past just a little bit? We've touched on Big Brother. I think at this point we all know it was fun. It was great. I won my season at the ripe age of 22. That was a wonderful time in my life. But let's talk about the time that maybe wasn't so wonderful. And it was the time I was on MTV's Ex on the Beach. Did I live in a house with Farrah Abraham from Teen Mom for 5 weeks? I sure freaking did. And it was about as pleasant as you would think that it was. So I want to talk all about that. But first, let's do a little life update, because if you've been listening to the podcast since episode 1, and if you have not, hit pause on this, go binge like the first 7 episodes, get caught up on all things Morgan, and then continue on with this podcast. But I wanted to do a little, just a smidge of a life update, because last solo episode I was in Bali. I got back, and honestly, I don't have too many crazy life updates. It's been about 2 weeks. I will say my first week back, I like to think I'm a pro traveler. I like to think I don't deal with jet lag. I can go places. I sleep fine. I adjust. The second I get home, I make it a rule. I always unpack. I immediately do laundry. I don't care what time it is. I grocery shop. I just jump back into my routine. So I assumed when I got back from Bali, that was going to happen. And I was going to be a normal, nice, functioning human. I was not. It took me a whole entire week. I shed so many tears the first 7 days that I was back, mainly because I just was not sleeping. I was going to bed around 10, but I was waking up at like 4 or 5 in the morning. I went to way too many 6 a.m. workout classes, which I am just simply, I'm not a 6 a.m. workout girl. If you know, you know. So that was a whole entire thing. So if you are internationally traveling, please give yourself a week to adjust. My girlfriend Marissa actually went to Bali. When she got back, she was like, look, it is going to take 2 weeks for you to feel normal. Give yourself a break. Do not jump into things. Slowly ease back into work. And you know, my personality type is 0 to 1 freaking 100. So the second I got back, I was like, we're back in Nashville, hit the ground running, get back to work. And I hit such a freaking wall. I called my mom, I think 3 times, just having an absolute breakdown. She was like, what's happening? What's wrong? And I'm like, nothing. I'm just so tired. So that was that, but we have gone over that little hump. Not too many crazy updates. I'm drowning in work. What is new? Dating updates, though. You know, it's funny. That's what everyone cares the most about. I don't have any crazy dating updates. I'm so sorry to disappoint you guys. Do I still have a crush on someone? I absolutely do. But I have realized in my life something that I struggle with is boundaries for myself, especially when it comes on the internet, because I am someone, I am an open book. I'm incredibly vulnerable. I try my hardest to be authentic, and that's almost to a fault. I love sharing all the tea with my besties, but I actually was calling my mom. This is like a common theme in my life. I call my mom probably 3 times a day, which I don't know if I should be admitting that. Like, is that embarrassing? I'm 29. Anyways, hey mom, I know she's listening to this podcast because she called me a couple days ago and said, please stop dropping the F-bomb so much on your podcast. Your father and I are listening. And I said, I'm so sorry, mother. I will try not to curse like a sailor. So I'm trying to be more mindful of that. But I was talking to her and I just felt so much pressure. I was having trouble deciphering my own feelings. I was having trouble just figuring out life and what I want. And I oftentimes feel a crazy pressure to put my life out there because I feel like you guys have been rocking with me since the age of 23. I feel like sometimes that I owe it to you guys to share so openly. And then she was like, Morgan, you're allowed to have boundaries. You don't have to post 100% of your life on the internet. And for me, I'm like, yes, I do. That's why I've been so good at what I've done. But I think that kind of hit me, especially as I've been going through dating and trying to decipher my own feelings. It's like some things I do want to keep a little close, mainly for like to protect myself. And also mainly, I'm just simply trying to figure out what the hell is going on with my feelings, my emotions, what I want. So this was a long-winded answer to say in regards to dating, yes, still have a fat crush on someone, but I am taking it slow. And you know what I'm doing right now? I'm simply taking a step back and I am trusting the process. That is my word of 2023, is to just trust. And I feel like for a hot second, for maybe 2 weeks of my life, I was forcing something. So I just wanted all the answers. And instead, I really am leaning into this word trust, and I'm just going to let go. I'm going to see where it takes me. And you know what I'm going to do every single day? I'm just focusing on enjoying meeting new people, putting myself out there, building whatever relationships come into my life, and I'm not going to force a single thing. So you're probably listening to this being like, bitch, you gave us no information just now on dating. But you know what? I think in time, as I feel ready to share more, I might. Also, like, I haven't been on any bad dates, and no one wants to hear about the boring good dates. Like, oh, we hung out and went to church. Cool. Y'all don't care about that. So no bad dates, no dates really at all. But you know who does have a bunch of bad dates is my sister. And guess who's coming on the podcast to talk all about those bad dates? She is. So I will let her be the entertaining one for once. And that's all I got for you on that. What else? I found out this morning I'm going to see Taylor Swift in Portugal. That's a big life update because, as you all know, I went to Portugal on a solo trip last year. I was convinced I was moving to Portugal. I got home. I legitimately had 3 phone calls with different realtors. I was going to buy property in Lisbon. I was going to get that golden visa, and I was going to become a Portuguese citizen. Anywho, that didn't work out. Plot twist, I moved to Nashville instead. But when Taylor Swift released these tour dates, I said, I cannot sleep until I see her in my favorite city in the whole entire world. And thankfully, my girlfriend, Blakely, if you're listening to this, I do believe she listens to the podcast. Love those supportive friends out there. She was able to snag 4 tickets, and y'all, I'm going. I feel like I'm going to get a ton of hate messages about this because I posted in my story last week and I got quite a few people being like, that's so unfair. You've already seen her. Let the Portuguese people have first access. And I said, look, fair game to everyone. I actually might have made this up. I don't know if this is an actual statistic, but I thought I read, maybe I didn't, that they're giving access to the people who actually live in the country, and then they're like letting the Americans snag the tickets. I don't know. All I have to say, if you are interested in seeing Taylor Swift, her tickets in America, I got around the same seats in each one. I'm embarrassed that I spent this much money on Taylor Swift tickets in Nashville. I think I spent $1,000 on that seat. The same seat in Portugal, in Lisbon, was $188. Let that sink in. We're living in the wrong place. What you need to know is we all need to pack up our belongings and move to Europe because it is a much more affordable, friendly, clean, nice place to be. Not hating on America. I did celebrate the 4th of July. I love a red, white, and blue moment. All I have to say is $188 for a Taylor Swift ticket. I'm going to leave it at that. Oh, I do have one more little life update because this is actually what kind of brought me to wanting to talk about Ex on the Beach. And Jesus and Ex on the Beach should not be in the same sentence, really, because MTV, I don't think Jesus approves of. But yesterday, I was sitting down, I was getting coffee. This is one of those moments where you kind of just have to take a step back and be like, wow. So as most of you probably know, I am a Christian. I love Jesus. I found an amazing church that I go to in Nashville. And I was talking to someone about faith, and they were like, have you ever thought about sharing it on social media? And I was like, you know what? Yes, I would love to, but it makes me feel a little uncomfortable, for lack of better terms. Even though I know that I should, as a God-fearing woman, talk more about it. But I was like, it makes me a little uncomfortable. I don't know if my testimony is good enough to share. So I was really letting that sit in, and we saw an awesome message, and I was, praying, Jesus, give me a sign. Well, I got that sign yesterday. I am sitting 5th and Broadway in Nashville. If you know where that is, because it is right off of Broadway, and it is busy all the time. And I really only go there to go to Free People. And I go to Sephora. But yesterday I was like, I'm going to get out. I'm going to get some fresh air. I'm going to go get a coffee. So I walked down. I got my coffee. And normally I get the coffee. I walk back to my apartment because I live a block away. But for some odd reason, I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit. I'm just going to people watch. I'll enjoy my time here. I think I was editing some dumb TikTok, if I'm being totally transparent. And then 2 young girls walk up to me. And I thought, my instant thought is, they know me from reality TV. I'm like, oh, goodness gracious. What are they about to ask me? And then they're like, what's your name? And I was like, my name's Morgan, whatever. And it ended up being these 2 young girls travel the country. They're in college. And they said every single week they go to a different state or city, just spreading the word about God. And I was like, that is actually so cool to me, because you know what I was doing in college? I was not spreading the word of Jesus. I was being a degenerate. And I was drinking copious amounts of alcohol and jumping into gross pools at frat parties. And that's what I was doing. So I was just like, that is so powerful, so cool. So they were asking me about my faith and where I went to church, and we got to talking. And I was like, you know what, girls, this is so interesting, because this actually has been weighing on my mind, because at first, everyone thinks that I am a country music singer in Nashville. And I don't know why. I think it's because my hair is big and blonde and looks like it's full of secrets, because I just got an air up, y'all. It's game changing. And I was like, no, guys, sorry, I am tone deaf. God did not bless me with a voice, because he knew if I could sing, I would be an incredibly obnoxious person and just belt out into song at all times. So he said, no, you're going to break glass if you try and sing. So I was like, no, I'm actually an influencer. I do social media. And then one of them was like, oh, I was praying to meet someone today to talk to about Jesus that had influence. We walked up to you randomly. I got goosebumps, and I was like, no way. Because I was hoping, or like praying for a sign. God, how can I reach more people? How can I use my platform for good? That's really what I'm always thinking about. I love telling crazy, funny stories. I love talking about reality TV, but I think my main purpose is actually reaching and changing people's lives. Sounds corny, I know. So we kind of had this little heart to heart, and then they asked if they could pray over me. Love that. I got a tear in my eye. And then they really encouraged me to use my platform to just share more about my faith and what I believe in and try and reach other people. And I was like, this is weird. I think this is Jesus telling me something. And I'm not going to lie, it made me uncomfortable. It really, really made me uncomfortable, because I don't know. I think it was pulling on something, and I don't like when I don't have an answer. And I was just like, what do I do? I don't have an answer. Anyways, I don't think I need to make a decision now. But my rule of thumb in life is, if something makes me uncomfortable, I have to act on it. So I think eventually I've decided I will share more about my faith, whether you're a believer, whether you're not. I don't know. I do think it is interesting and important to share, because it made me uncomfortable. So we got to act on that. But you also know what makes me uncomfortable? Talking about X on the beach. So we just went from loving Jesus to living in a house with Farrah Abraham and my dad's worst nightmare, which was me going on a dating show on MTV. So I was thinking last night about this solo episode. What do I want to share? I don't know. And we went from sharing our testimony about our faith to, I think, you know what I think I'm going to do instead? I think I'm going to talk about this train wreck that was called X on the Beach. Mainly because it is a show, like the topic, not that it kind of does make me uncomfortable, because if you watch the show, it did end in a bit of a scandal of sorts. I was 24. It's really not a scandal. Like, who honestly cares? But I just try and ignore that chapter of my life for whatever reason. And it is how a lot of people on the internet, I'd say, if I look at my followers or my audience, I'd say 40% came to find me from the show X on the Beach, which is actually wild. So it's like, why am I ignoring that part of my life? Because anytime someone asks me, my initial response is I roll my eyes. I say, oh my God, that was so embarrassing. I can't believe I did that. It was the worst 5 weeks of my life, which I'm not lying about that. But I tend to just brush it under the rug and hope that people ignore it. And you know what? I'm going to talk about it today, mainly because it is actually batshit crazy. It is wildly entertaining. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to lean into that uncomfortable feeling, and I'm just going to do what I do best, which is overshare on the internet. Let's talk about my time on MTV's Ex on the Beach, starting with how in the hell I got on that show, if you were wondering. So let's do a little backstory. I did Big Brother. That was fun and dandy. I was 22. I won the show. I did what everyone does, packed up my stuff, moved to LA. And then I was just doing the LA thing. I loved going to clubs, which is shocking because if you told me right now, Morgan, put on a pair of stilettos on a Wednesday night and go sit in a club, I'd say you are insane. But LA Morgan loved doing that. Warwick Wednesdays, she was a fan. I disgust myself by even saying that. So I was doing the whole going out thing. I was seeing different people. At the time, I had gone on a few dates with someone from Survivor. I might as well say his name. His name's Jay. Hello, if you watch Ex on the Beach, you know that name because I cried and said, Jay, like a million times on that show. Very annoying. We had gone on a few dates, and he actually had been reached out about a show called Ex on the Beach. So then he gave the producers my name. So all of a sudden, one day, I get a phone call from a producer, said, hey, you're cute. So in the reality TV world, they will never tell you the name of the show, or at least on MTV, they don't. So this was quote unquote untitled dating show. So he said, do you want to come on this untitled dating show? And I was like, I'm open to it. I had nothing to lose at that point. I was kind of in a crossroads in my life where I was trying to be a reporter. I was auditioning. I was also trying to be an actress. Why? Who told me I can act? I can't. I was doing improv classes. Also a disaster. Imagine me in UCB 101 trying to do improv. You can imagine how disastrous that was. But I was in this point where I just did not know what I was doing with my life. This is before I was an influencer. I had a small platform, but I was not making any money off social media. So I said, why not? Maybe this will lead to something. So fast forward, I went through all the interview processes with Ex on the Beach. They made you give a list. So everyone's like, how did they come across your exes? So I went on the show. There was 4 girls, 4 guys. That was the main cast. And then your exes washed up on a beach. It's as fun as it sounds, y'all. As fun as it sounds. You live in a house, your exes come. And the whole premise is, can you rekindle with your ex? Are you really over them? Are you going to get back together? And this is why, as you all know, if you've listened to the podcast, I believe an ex is an ex for a reason. But that is the premise. When you go through the casting, they make you give a list to the producers of every single guy that you have dated, that you have hooked up with, that you have kissed, that you've slid into their DMs. Any interaction with a dude, essentially, they're like, give us his name. So when you hear the word ex is a loose term. It is a very, very loose term. So I had 3 exes on that show. I can't believe we're even digging into this. I had 3 exes on that show. Jay was one of them. Corey was another one. And then Monty was another one. So 1 from Survivor, 1 from Big Brother, another one from my season of Big Brother. We love reality TV here. This is why I'm retired, y'all. So they contacted a slew. Like, I gave them names of random guys I had gone on one date with in college. They basically just wanted, look, I'm just going to say it as it is. They just wanted they want hot guys with abs. So they're going to go through your list. They're going to, they're like, your serious boyfriend of 3 years in college that ended amicably, boring. We don't want them. But this guy that you kissed one time with abs and who is 6 feet, put him on the show. And also pretend like you are seriously in love, have a whole entire backstory. So one of the guys that was on the show, Monty, was one of my exes. He was on Big Brother with me. We had never even kissed. We hadn't held hands. Like, there was no chemistry whatsoever. So I think if you have watched Big Brother, or you listened to my Melby episode of this podcast and then you went and watched my season, you know Monty, and you probably know there was nothing that happened there. But imagine everything, it was kind of embellished on Ex on the Beach. So we knew we kind of had to make up this backstory. So I literally called Monty before the show and I was like, all right, I think this is going to happen. I have a feeling they're going to bring you on as my ex. We need some kind of crazy backstory. So we had to make up this whole romantic thing where I don't even know what we said, where he was into me, I wasn't into him. My dad liked him because he's a Southern gentleman. Anyways, it was all BS. That's what you need to know. That is the important part of that story. But so back to what I was saying, you give them a list, they pick. You don't know until they wash up on the beach, but you have a pretty good idea. Like, I think we all had an inkling of what was going to happen. I was unaware that I was going to have so many. So everyone else on X on the Beach had one ex show up, maybe two, if that. For some reason, it's like I had a sign on my forehead that said sucker. They're like, this girl, bring in 3. Let's put her through the ringer. It was lovely. It was dandy, but they ended up casting me, and so they ended up putting me as one of the main cast members. So there was only 4 main girls and 4 main guys. And I mean, I was actually very honored because I was initially interviewed to be an ex, like someone who washes up on the beach for one of, I think, for Jay or Corey. And, you know, your girl has such a dynamic personality that they're like, nah, put her on. Or it was that, I'm trying to flatter myself with that statement. Or they looked at me and they said, this girl seems naive. She's young. She seems very emotional. I bet she cries a lot. Let's put her on. I think that's what it was more like. But essentially, I went through sequester. It's the same as Big Brother. They put us in a hotel for like a week before. And then we actually filmed this show in Malibu in a mansion. Maybe it's an Airbnb now, but it actually was a beautiful house minus, as I'm sweating on my couch, because now I know this, you can't run air when you're filming things. So the whole entire time we're in Malibu in the summer, there's no AC in this mansion. And I was sweaty. I was sleep deprived. I was emotional. I was starving. I wasn't getting my nails done, and I just wanted to go home. So that was essentially what I did for 5 entire weeks. And I would like to also mention this because everyone is like, why X on the Beach? Why say yes to that? At the time, I was getting cast for The Bachelor. So I was going through the casting for Colton's season of The Bachelor. My sister is somehow scheming behind everything. Anytime I show up on TV, she has something to do with it. Big Brother, she urged me to do X on the Beach. She urged me to do the challenge. So she also submitted me to be on Colton's season of The Bachelor. So I was going through casting for that. At the same exact time, I was also being called to go on X on the Beach. And I said, you know what? I've got these 2 different opportunities. I was really hoping for The Bachelor, especially Colton's season. Like, I feel like that is the season that was like prime Bachelor. That's when you really skyrocketed with following, career, etc. I think I would have thrived. I mean, I don't think it would have worked out for me in the end. And I love Colton, and he seems so happy, and I'm so happy for him living his truth now. But would have much rather gone on The Bachelor. Instead, the second they found out I was on Big Brother, you can't be on any former reality show going on The Bachelor. So the second they found that out, I'm not going to bring it up, but I have a feeling they did some background research. They found out I was on, and they cut me from that. And I felt like that was my sign to go on X on the Beach. And you know what? Now looking back, I do believe everything happens for a reason. A lot of people are like, would you have done it? Do you regret it? Were there some embarrassing moments? Yes. Was it very mentally straining? Absolutely. Do I have some regrets of how I acted? Sure do. But everything leads you to exactly where you're supposed to be. That show led me to the challenge. The challenge led me to my past relationship. My past relationship led me to social media. And all of that led me to sitting on this couch right now. So no, I don't have regrets. But that is a fun backstory that I feel like a lot of people don't know. Could have been on The Bachelor, ended up on My Dad's Worst Nightmare, which is a dating show on MTV. That involved Chad from The Bachelor, Farrah from Teen Mom. I do enjoy most of the cast members. I don't talk to a lot of them, but let's go over who I lived in a house with. So we're in Malibu. We're filming. I was in a house with Farrah from Teen Mom. She was one of the initial cast members, and let me just paint you a picture. So we knew nothing about who we were filming with, where we were going, and the first scene it's not like Big Brother where they toss you in a house and you just kind of get to be yourself. On X on the Beach, everything is kind of a production. There's scenes. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. So you're sitting in the car and then they say, all right, walk in. So the first one, we're in bikinis. Okay. And then it's like this pool party where you meet your cast members. We're in bikinis, but it's a bikini masquerade. Tell me how that makes any sense. It doesn't. Made sense for X on the Beach. So we all have these masks on. So little tiny bikini, but like a masquerade mask. So we go in, and the first person I see is Jose from Big Brother. I knew him, and then all the other cast members trickle in. And then Farrah came in last, and I was like, is that Farrah from Teen Mom? And I was like, sure is. What am I doing here? And then there was Chad from The Bachelor. So Bad Chad, I don't know if you guys remember him. He was a staple. He was like the villain on The Bachelor. And this is how I kind of knew MTV was a little stage set up. So I'm sitting in the car with my producer before they toss me into the wolves in my bikini and my mask. And they're like, oh my gosh, there's the hottest guy on this cast. He's all American. He's tall. He's buff. You're going to love him. And I'm like, oh man, that sounds like my type. And they're like, yeah, keep an eye out for him. I heard he's probably into blondes, etc. And they were already planting the seed that they wanted Chad and I to be like a couple. So obviously that was in the back of my head. So as you can imagine, things are a little, producers they know what they want. They know what makes good TV. So I go in, and then Bad Chad walks in, and I'm like, this is the dreamboat you guys wanted to set me up with. This is all y'all are giving me. Thanks, MTV. But I was going to roll with it. Again, I was 24 and I was just playing the game. Now I think I have much more of a backbone. I know, what I like, what I don't like. I have so much more of a voice. But at the age of 24, I was just, bless your heart, Southern Texas girl, wants to get along with everyone, I just wanted to please. I really just wanted to please the producers. I wanted to, my main hope, I'm being totally transparent, is I wanted to go on the challenge. That was 90% of why I initially went on X on the Beach. It was the hopes that they would pull me from that show to go on the challenge, which plot twist, they did. So it worked out for me. But I was doing whatever I could to make those producers happy. And that's what led me to the ending where I was hooked up to a lie detector test in front of a live audience on national TV. It was so fun. I'm lying. It was not. I cried a lot after that one. But that is who I lived with. And then again, one by one, your exes wash up. So someone on Instagram was like, what was a day-to-day like filming that show? It was not fun. So it's not like Big Brother where you get to choose your schedule. No, you're at the mercy of a bunch of producers. So every single day, mind you, we stayed up till 2, 3, 4. They would have theme parties that you were required to be a part of. If you wanted to go to bed early, sorry, can't do that. You were required to be in a costume that they provided, which if you saw me in questionable outfits on that show, I didn't get any say in that. They said, here you go, you're wearing it. Go drink some alcohol, have some fun. I was like, yes, ma'am. So we'd have these theme parties where they would keep us up super late. We were sleeping in not luxurious accommodations. None of these reality shows are luxurious. I feel like people think it's like a hotel. You get your own bed and space and Egyptian cotton 100-count thread sheets. I don't even know if that's a thing. That's not the case. I was on a cot, like a military cot that was rock hard. I was sleeping in a room with 8 people. Also think 8 people who at some point, some people are hooking up, some people are not. It got weird. And then in the morning, I think 7 a.m. was our wake up call, maybe 8. Producers walk into your room with a stereo. They go, boop. They press play and start blasting music. And that was how you woke up every single day. And they said, get up, get out, get camera ready. So think full glam. So imagine me, how I'm sitting on this couch right now, looking real cute. I had to do that every single day because you're on camera. Then you would go downstairs, you'd put on your mic, you would go sometimes 4 hours of interviews, and you're just answering producer questions all day long. Then we'd have something set up where you'd sit on the couch and you'd have to refilm reactions. So they'd be like, all right, 1, 2, 3, act surprise. that. And then there'd be different things where we had to vote, or they had this surprise room where bad things would happen. And that's where like all the drama started, was in this, I don't remember the name of the room, but I was scared of that room. A lot of bad things happened to me in that room. It's where all the tears started. So then you'd have to film those reactions, or you'd sit and watch. And then the rest of the time you're really just sitting on a couch waiting to be told what to do. And that was it. And then the days when you would go, there were days when your exes would wash up on the beach. So you'd be shipped down, like an hour down in Malibu, because we were up in the hills, down to a beach in a van. You'd sit around for an hour, wait for them to set up everything. You'd go down, sit for another hour. Then it'd be like, all right, lights, camera, action. Your ex washes up. Most of the time you are surprised, but you also know cameras are on you. So then it's like this big to-do. Then once your ex washes up, oh, no, you don't just get to leave. You and your ex then have to go have an interview together. Now that I'm saying this out loud, I'm like, this is actually madness that people willingly did this, and that's how a TV show works. But yeah, you'd go sit on the beach. There'd be 5 cameras around you, people staring at you, and they'd be like, all right, talk about your feelings. You want to rekindle things? And I'm like, no, I hooked up with this man one time 3 years ago. No, I don't care. But you had to play the game. And then that was essentially it. And that's what we did for 5 weeks. And let's talk about what everyone, I feel like, wants to know about. What was it like living with Farrah from Teen Mom? I think I unfollowed her on Instagram. She actually did like me, which thank the Lord, because if you were on her bad side, things did not end well. And let me just say how things did not end well, because let me paint you a picture, actually, if you're listening. Just picture this. Farrah, Teen Mom. She's had some work done. So just like picture that. Think about Farrah from Teen Mom, and there was a girl, Nerese, and they had beef for whatever reason, which I still don't understand the whole concept of like screaming at someone on reality TV. Like, I just wanted to do my job. I was the crier girl, but I would be woken up some nights with people throwing wine glasses against walls, shattering, people getting kicked out of our home and being dragged out by the producers because they punched someone. Madness, y'all. If you were wondering why I'm in therapy, I think a lot of it has to do with that. Love my therapist. What up, Carly? But with Farrah, she did not get along with this one girl. They had beef for whatever reason on MTV. Nerese is standing there, and they're confronting each other and having like a little argument of sorts. Farrah winds up. She's wearing little booties on her little foot. She winds up her leg, and I see this happen in slow motion. She kicks as hard as she can Nerese in the vagina. Just like smack right there. And all of us were like, so then Nerese crumples. She's crying. It is a whole ordeal. They're screaming at each other. And meanwhile, I'm just like, did Farrah from Teen Mom just kick someone in the vagina? Like, where am I right now? So then she gets kicked out. They have to be separated. At one point, then I think there was a plot to take Farrah's shoes and flush them in the toilet. Like, y'all, I can't make this shit up. It was weird. But luckily, Farrah did, for some reason, enjoy my presence, which I don't think she enjoyed a lot of people in that house. But I was just like, please don't kick me. That's really all I want. But look, I like my vagina the way that it is. Please just don't kick me. She did tell me, though, at one point that porn was a good business decision for me. And I said, I don't think so. Look, like, Farrah, do your thing. You seem like you're successful. I don't know a lot about Farrah's past, but I was like, I'm going to politely decline. I will say, so someone on Instagram asked, is she as nuts as she seems online? Yes. I'm also a little scared. Nah, there's no way she's listening to this podcast. We don't know what Farrah's doing in Farrahland, but every single morning we would be woken up and she was screaming, berating the producers. And not just like a little yell, like when you raise your voice and get mad at someone. I'm talking screaming at the top of her lungs. Imagine this little tiny man who was like our head producer, just like cowering. And I don't know what she was yelling about. Her sleeping accommodations. She wanted to get her nails done. She needed to leave the house. Crazy stuff. So she was very demanding, but I will say what Farrah wanted, Farrah got, because we weren't allowed to get our hair done, our nails, anything. Half the time they forgot to get groceries for us. So I'm like, I'm freaking hungry, y'all. Like, when am I going to eat in this house? Farrah somehow demanded by screaming organic food. She got like little organic salads brought to her. She got to leave. She had a boxing trainer come in. I was like, everyone else is just like sitting around twiddling her thumbs. Farrah's in like little tiny boxing shorts. She's also not a good boxer, by the way. Imagine that. She had a boxing coach where she's like doing 1-2 hooks and jabs. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? She also only had one ex come. And I don't know how this poor man was roped into this situation, because I don't think they actually dated. And he was just like kind of off. And that was her ex. I also know for a fact she got paid at least 6 figures to go on that show. I don't know if that's true, actually. So don't hold me. Allegedly, so much money to go on that show. So they needed something from her. You know what I got paid to go on that show? Not freaking 6 figures. All of our budget, the whole cast, went to Farrah to go on that. At one point, she left the house because she had to go to court because she was almost going to go to jail. So they're like, yeah, she can leave. You guys got to sit here, but Farrah can go to her court hearing. And then we had a free Farrah party, like a theme party where we all made like picket signs and that said free Farrah, and we all had t-shirts. And when she found out she was not going to jail, we had a party, because that's what you do in MTV. You celebrate Farrah not going to prison. Very strange time in my life. Trying to think of what else. But yeah, to say it was very, very interesting. She got in quite a few screaming matches. Everyone got in screaming matches, myself included. And I will say Farrah had her own closet just for her stuff. She had her own section where she could go to bed early if she wanted to. Meanwhile, the producers were like, nope, you guys, sleep deprivation. Stay up till 3, 4 in the morning. We're going to wake you up early. Farrah, she can sleep, because I think they were so terrified of what this girl was going to scream in their face if they did not allow her to do exactly what she wanted. But I will say, as crazy as it was, and I honestly was terrified to live in, I treaded carefully. I'm like, okay. She did get a nail lady. I don't know how she pulled this one out, but she had a manicurist come into the house, and she demanded she needed her nails done. So we all got our nails done one day, which was quite the treat. Thank you, Farrah, for that one. But I think that was probably the only like positive experience. And a lot of people on Instagram, when I teased this yesterday in my story, I knew this was going to come. People opened up Pandora's box of questions. Were my tears real? Because if you watch the show, that was my role. I was the token crier. I cry about everything in general in my life anyways. I'm very emotional. What you see is what you get. I honestly take pride. I used to be embarrassed that I was emotional and in touch with my feelings. And now I kind of own it. I'm like, look, I'm going to get out everything. I think it's healthy to cry. I think it's important. You're going to know exactly what I'm feeling, because I cannot shut up until I just get it out. But on Ex on the Beach, yes, the tears were real. And so if you're wondering, Morgan, why were you crying on Ex on the Beach? Well, let me tell you, because okay, I actually have to take credit for my own actions. We have grown at the age of 29. I was going to say, because the producers were out to get me. They weren't out to get me. They were making a TV show, so I can understand that. But I will say my mindset was, I'm 24 and I'm this nice Southern Texas cheerleader, and I followed all the rules, and I gave the producer all the storyline that they wanted. When they woke everyone else up, I got a first wake up call. I was in hair and makeup. I made sure I was on time for my interviews. Like, again, such a type A human. Even on reality TV, I have to follow the rules. But because of that, and I really felt like I made friends with them in my interviews. They were so nice to me. I was like, oh my God, I am the golden child. They're not going to mess with me. I'm being so friendly, and they're asking me such nice questions. And it was like, plot freaking twist. You're a sucker. They're going to actually manipulate the hell out of the situation. And you're in for a wild ride, Morgan. And boy, was I, because again, I had the most exes out of everyone. And I think they knew that was the storyline that they wanted. So whereas I was like, oh, I'm going to be the nice girl who rekindles with her ex, and it's going to be a happy love story. And they're like, happy love story? That phrase does not belong on MTV. No. We're going to torment you. So I ended up being in a love triangle with Jay and Corey. And there was one moment which I will never forget. And that's when I think the waterworks started and they just didn't stop. Keep in mind, y'all, I need 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night. If I get any less than that, I am an absolute train wreck, miserable human. So imagine me sleeping 4 hours a night, not having nearly enough nutrients, probably not drinking any water, drinking copious amounts of alcohol, not working out, not being in a routine. I was cracking. I was mentally cracking. So then, look, and you got to go back and watch this to understand, but I'll try and paint a picture. So one of my exes, Corey, we had to go down to the beach together. And that was, they pick and choose who has to go to the beach. Some people stay in the house, some people go, and that's because they're obviously creating these storylines. Him and I had to go down to the beach to watch someone's ex wash up. Then I was unaware of this at the time, but the producers had told Corey, you need to kiss Morgan on the beach for whatever reason. I guess it was like part of our story. Are we rekindling? So we're down there and he kisses me. I was like, this is weird. All right, I'll kiss him back. Not thinking anything of it. Then what I was unaware of, my other ex was back in the house, and this was Jay, and him and I were kind of like rekindling for the purpose of TV, rekindling our romance. I was unaware that they had filmed that footage, and this was when Jay and I were getting serious. Again, this is all TV talk, y'all. Remember, TV show. Him and I were getting serious. I was unaware. As I get back in the house, I was like, oh, I'm probably not going to mention that happened because I think it's not going to bode well. Morgan, you are an idiot. Of course it's going to be shown. You're on a TV show. So lo and behold, they take that footage. They bring the other half of the house into the scary basement of doom. I don't remember what it's called, but it's where all the drama happened. And they play a video. They play a video of Corey and I on the beach. All of a sudden, I hear a rush of people walk up. I'm like sitting there eating dinner. Jay's upset. He's yelling. He saw that. And I was just like, oh my sweet baby Jesus. What do? I don't thrive in controversy. So you know what I did? I tried really hard to be a badass. And I was like, you're not going to come from me. You're not going to confront me. So I try my hardest. I'm sitting down eating dinner. This is in front of a whole entire production, a whole entire group of people. I like push myself up and I like the chair flies backwards. And I'm like, I'm about to be such a badass and I'm about to stomp away and like make my point. Like, you can't mess with me. And I slip and I eat shit. I literally try my hardest to get up, like try to be such a badass in my head. I thought it was going to work. And then I legitimately, there was water on the floor and my feet fly out from under me. I hit my side. And I just remember I popped back up and that's when I just lost my shit. I was crying. I was embarrassed. I didn't know what I was doing on this TV show. I lost my mind. And I think after that moment, I don't think I stopped crying on that TV show. And yeah, that was Ex on the Beach. So yes, the tears absolutely were real. In normal circumstances, I don't think I would have been emotionally involved, but you have to remember on these TV shows, they know what they're doing. It is mental manipulation, for lack of better terms, sleep deprivation. They know the questions to ask to push your buttons, all of that. Wild times. And let's talk about the worst moment on Ex on the Beach, because now we've opened up Pandora's box and I'm feeling real chatty. So we're going to take advantage of this. Someone asked, what was the worst moment for you on Ex on the Beach? I mean, there were some positives. I had a lot of laughs. I met really fun people. There were wild times. I think at one point we played like strip poker, which now that I'm thinking about it, shouldn't have done. But at the time it was fun. I'm a 24-year-old idiot. My dad is ashamed. But the worst moment was, and you know what? Anytime in life I'm having a bad day, and things aren't looking up, I'm stressed, I don't know what's going on with my life, I say, you know what, Morgan, remember that time you were hooked up to a lie detector test in front of a live audience on national TV? Yeah, I remember that too. Okay, it can't get worse than that. You're doing A-okay in life. So the reunion show happened, and yes, I don't know if anyone knew this, but I was hooked up to a lie detector test in front of a live audience that was, they were chanting like, liar, liar. Picture that. Okay. I was like, what is happening to me right now? This is mortifying. My ex, Jay, was proctoring the lie detector test, which, by the way, so it was rigged. You're supposed to have like a little old lady there who's certified in lie detector tests. And I didn't have the little old lady, okay? All of a sudden, I'm at the reunion show. They're wheeling out a lie detector test. A producer is grabbing me by the arm and like leading me to the stage. And I'm like looking around like, what do I do? What do I say? Do I refuse? The audience is like booing, chanting, all this stuff. My ex is now sitting in the center of the stage, like arms crossed, like, well, if you don't have anything to hide, why can't you come on stage? And I'm just like, I am mortified. I don't know. When I get frazzled, y'all, oof, I really hope, and my biggest fear, because I watch a lot of true crime, is I'm going to get falsely accused for like some crazy crime. Like I've seen the TV shows, and I'm going to get questioned. And when I get frazzled, shit hits the fan. I don't think clearly. I know for a fact I would not ask for a lawyer. I would not ask for my Miranda rights. I would just start spewing things. And in that moment on X on the Beach, I did not know what to do. So I said, okay, we've got to sit down. And then questions started being asked. And my friend actually was on the cast, was sitting behind like the computer screen of this lie detector test. And afterwards he was like, yeah, so I hate to tell you this, but everything you said, even if it was true, was aired as a lie. And I was like, sick, bro, sick. So America thinks I'm this big fat freaking liar. And I just remember the whole entire cast went out afterwards, fine, dandy, laughing. And I just sat and I cried and I cried and I cried in my hotel room. And in that moment, I think I did block my ex Jay on all platforms and his number. And I have not unblocked him since. But now that I think about it, I mean, I actually wish him well. I actually would not mind him coming on the podcast because I would love to touch on that area of my life. And I've grown so much. If you're very confused as to why I was hooked up to a lie detector, you're like, Morgan, you have not explained why. It's because I'm skirting around the topic, okay? Because I'm avoiding it. But I'm not going to do that because I've promised to be open. So the reason all of this happened, the reason the reunion show blew up in my face, so I ended X on the Beach in a quote-unquote relationship. That is the purpose of the show. That is what producers wanted. It was heavily influenced. You knew who needed to be in a relationship. You knew at the crush ceremony, y'all. Romeo was the host, okay? That should tell you everything you need to know. So we had a crush ceremony. At the very last episode, you give your ex a necklace if you want to be with them forever, or you can choose yourself. Now, I'm like, why the hell did I not choose myself? Like, 29-year-old me would have been like, screw the ex, I'm picking me. But I knew the producers wanted us to be together. And I will say, I'm not going to lie, I did have feelings for Jay in the house. I'm not going to lie about that. Those were true. I think the feelings were amplified in any situation on reality TV because of the circumstances. You're locked away. You don't have your phone. You're not around your family. You really only have the people in that house to lean on. And he was such a support to me. He was so awesome in the house. I will not dog him on that. I really did care about him as a person. But the second the show was over, it's like I snapped back to reality. And I was like, I knew in the back of my head, I was like, this isn't going to work in real life. It was great and fun on a show, but I knew just like we weren't compatible. I also don't think I was ready in LA at that time for that relationship. Maybe I was. I don't know. But the plot thickens because 2 days after I get back into the real world, when I should have been thinking about what do I do with this person that I'm now in a TV relationship, but now it's real life, and are we in a relationship? What's happening? I should have been talking to that person, but I had 2 days, 48 hours to pack my bags, go get vaccinations, get all my stuff. I hadn't worked out in 5 weeks, and I was supposed to fly to Africa to film The Challenge, which is one of the most gnarly competition shows on TV. And it was my dream to go on that. That is, again, why I did X on the Beach. I guess Morgan Luck started back then because I wanted to go on The Challenge, and lo and behold, they called me. They said, hey, you filmed 5 weeks. How's your mental health? I was like, pretty bad. They're like, cool, pack your bags. You're going to Africa to film another show. I said, cool. Sounds great. So I should have dealt with that. I didn't. Instead, I was just like 0 to 100. We got to go film another show. I quickly called my parents. I said, hey, haven't talked to y'all in a bit. Oh, by the way, I got to turn my phone in 2 days because I'm going to film another show in Africa. See y'all never. My parents were like, what the hell did we do wrong? What happened to our daughter? We wanted grandkids. We wanted a son-in-law. And instead you're in Africa with a bunch of crazy people on MTV. Said, sure am. So I should have dealt with that. The second I went on the challenge, we're just going to, you guys know this story. If you don't know this, I'll give you the cliff notes. I picked my partner. My partner was who I've talked about on this podcast. We call him Voldemort. That ended up being my long-term past relationship. We were partners. I think instantly I knew I was attracted to this person. I think also, I don't know. That situation, I think from the get-go was not healthy. I should have paid attention to it, but I didn't. I was young. I was so just like, oh my gosh, this older guy likes me and etc. The crazy, you're in Africa. We were traveling the world. Everything happened. We got eliminated together, as you all know, as was said on the reunion show. And you know what I should have done? I should have at that moment, the second I got my phone back, I should have called Jay and I should have owned it. And I should have said, this is where my head's at. This is what I'm feeling. Here I am. I don't think this is going to work. For your feelings, for mine, let's be fair. I'm so much better at communicating now than I was. But again, I was 24. I was an idiot. I was naive, not to make excuses for myself. And I will own, I did not do what I should have done in that situation. Hands down. I was not fair to Jay. I did not consider his feelings. I was selfish. And instead, I was just in such a mentally tough spot where I just got eliminated after 2 weeks. I was devastated. I felt like a failure because I wanted to win the show. And now I'm with this partner that I am attracted to. So what I should have called Jay. I did not. Instead, my partner, Voldemort, was like, let's go travel the world together. Now I'm like, girl, what? Yeah, let's travel the world with essentially a stranger that we know nothing about. But at the time, I was like, I don't want to go home. I don't want to face family life. I've been in this reality TV la la land for the past, 9 weeks? I said, sure, let's travel. So we ended up traveling together. Everyone thinks that I hooked up with Voldemort in the challenge house. And I've been pretty freaking open on this podcast. I would say if we did not. I slept in the bed with him one night. And that was a mistake. I definitely think that was crossing boundaries, but we had drank a lot. The producers were like fueling me with booze that night and nothing happened because it was so freaking miserably hot in the challenge house, which was the producers' fault because I know that they wanted. And at the time, now that I look back on it, they knew all of this was going to play out the way that it was. They wanted that hookup to happen so bad. It didn't. It was so hot and I was so hammered that I literally passed out in bed and then ended up like moving because it was so hot. But of course they aired the one clip of us walking, to bed together and it's like, oh my God, they hooked up. No, we didn't. I can assure you of that. I would let you know. And then afterwards, obviously Voldemort and I traveled together. I ended up calling Jay at the beginning of those travels and I did let him know, here's what's happening. Let's discuss this when I get home. But I don't think this is going to work. And then I traveled with my soon-to-be long-term boyfriend. And then when we got home, I was able to talk to Jay. We discussed it, and he was pretty A-okay with it. He was like, yeah, I get it. And we ended up meeting. We got dinner. I thought all was fine. I still own it. I do think I hurt him. I'm not discrediting that. I want to make that known. I did hurt him. I did not handle things the way that I should. Also, when we were traveling, I don't care if I say this, I did end up hooking up with Voldemort. This was after the phone call. So is there a gray area? I don't know. Open to interpretation. I don't feel like I owe the internet anything more. I still get comments to this day of like, how dare you do what you did to Jay? You deserve everything that you got with your past relationship. Once, you lose him how you got him. And I'm like, look, you guys can insult me all you want. I've heard it all. I've healed. I've grown. I know what I've done. I can acknowledge my behavior. But you know what I do have to say? No, I did not deserve what happened to me. I think the difference is I, yes, did make a mistake, and I owned it, and I communicated, and I'm working on myself, and I tried my best to become a better person. And I think that I did. I think the girl sitting on this couch right now who's 29 has grown immensely, and I've grown up in front of the public eye, which is very hard to do. I think the situation that happened to me was 2.5, 3 years of a relationship that included love, spending time with family, vacations, etc. No, I actually don't think that I deserved it. And I don't think that I lost it the way that I got it at all. I don't agree with that. Again, you guys feel free to message me, argue with me. Sure, I don't really care, but I do want to, that comment always does bother me, and I, at this point, let it roll off. But no, the way I was cheated on, that was a repeated behavior. It was someone not wanting to change. It's someone who hasn't changed. So no, I do think those are very, very different situations. Argue with me if you want. All of this to say, that happened. We traveled together. Jay and I talked about it. He seemed fine. But hello, I forget we're on reality TV. So you got to make good TV. And Jay obviously knew what would make good TV. And the producers heavily influenced this. I'm not saying it's all him, but I walked into that reunion show. Jay and I had talked, and he said, we're good, right? Let's go on. No drama, no hard feelings. And I said, cool. I'm going to show up to this and everything's going to be fine. I'm just going to sit there. I'm now, Voldemort and I at this point had like beginning stages. Like we had spent a lot of time together. I was like, cool. Like I'm in this cool new thing. I got no drama to talk about. I just get to sit and watch everyone yell at each other. And then plot freaking twist. I show up and then everything flipped. Jay had a new attitude, all this stuff. And look, I get it. Freaking making TV. But at the time, I was so blindsided, so hurt. And that's what led to the lie detector test, because it was like, you hurt me and you need to own your actions. I felt like I was on an episode of Mari, whatever, that one where they're like, you're the father. That's what I felt like I was on. And you know what? I now can look back and I can internally cringe, and I forever will. But I can look back and now laugh at it. I think for the first year, I could not even talk about that moment. I couldn't talk to my cast members. I hired a publicist. I hired a PR crisis team after that reunion show, because I was so terrified of the repercussions, what was going to happen. And like anything in reality TV, it blows over the second a new scandal comes out. So yes, was it tough for a week to see your name in headlines and, oh my God, have your family and friends see it and all that? Yeah, more to freaking fine. Is it embarrassing when you type in my name and there's a clip of me in a little white jumpsuit with a lie detector thing strapped on my chest on a reunion show? Abso-freaking-lutely. But you know what? It's part of my story. It made me who I am now. And that was my time on X on the Beach. I hope I answered all of the questions about that. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I have left out, any detail. You don't need to go watch it. If you're listening to this and you're like, you know what? I really want to binge X on the Beach. Maybe don't. There are some funny moments though, and I will say all of my friends have watched the season and they still to this day make fun of me, and they're like, how was that makeout with Chad? And I'm like, I don't want to talk about it, okay? It was one time. And I will say, for some odd reason, my mother let my grandparents watch X on the Beach. Tell me why my 80-year-old grandfather needed to watch MTV's X on the Beach. He didn't. But we're at Christmas dinner after the show had aired, and my Papa comes up. He's like, how was sucking face with Chad, that guy from The Bachelor? And I was like, I'm gonna go bury myself in the backyard now. I don't need to talk. I'm dismissing myself from Christmas dinner. Truly mortifying. But you know what? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It makes for funny stories. And if anything, I've had a wild ride, and everything has led me, again, full circle to where I am now, to where it's like I can laugh about it, I can talk about it. And in the grand scheme of things, if you compare me to anyone on reality TV, very normal, very well adjusted. I actually feel like I'm too normal to be on reality TV. But then I think about my life and my stories, and I compare myself to the normal people, like my beautiful friends, new friends in Nashville, who are just like so well adjusted and just have normal jobs. I'm actually insane compared to them. So I like to say I get the best of both worlds. I'm a little normal, I'm a little crazy, and I've got some really fun stories that I can tell my kids. I'm actually not going to tell my future kids about this, but maybe they'll listen to this podcast. All right, y'all. Well, I think that wraps up my fun little tea time X on the beach stories, the tea, the drama, everything in between. Thank you so much for listening. This was fun and honestly not as terrifying as I thought. I'm actually pretty excited to re-listen to this episode. I hope you enjoy it. I'm sure at some point I'll do Tea Time Challenge Edition because there's also quite a few stories with that. Thank you so much for listening, y'all. As always, like, listen, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'll see everyone next week. Thanks so much for listening to the Your Internet Best Friend podcast. It's been real, it's been fun, and I will see everyone here next week. In the meantime, do all the podcast things, like, subscribe, give me a 5-star review if you please, and catch up with me on social media at Morgan Lee Willette. Bye, besties.